Hi, this is Kelly. You're listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. I want to encourage you right now today to go to vote.org and double check whether you're registered to vote. If you're not, be sure to register very soon as registration deadlines are quickly coming upon us. Hey everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, and today I am talking with Katie McBrine, who is running for the Massachusetts State Senate in the Plymouth and Norfolk District. Hi, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Exhausted, but good.
I'm sure. So tell us a little bit about your background and why you've decided to run for the State Senate.
Yeah, so I am a pediatrician. I've been a pediatrician for a little over a decade now. I'm a mom of two kids, 6 and 8 years old, who go to public school in the town that I live in, which is Hingham. And I work in the district, too. I work in a town called Scituate, so I live and work in the district that I'm trying to run in. And I am running because healthcare is a mess. I see my families struggling on a daily basis, and I took an oath to help and heal people when I became a physician, and I can't just sit by and watch my families be hurt any longer when we don't have any physicians in our state house currently. The last physician I could find is 1936, and I think it's about time that we had another one.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this district. Right now, the Massachusetts State Senate has a supermajority of Democrats, but you're running against an incumbent Republican.
Yes. My district has been held by a Republican for 20 plus, maybe even 30 years. So it's not to be thought to be winnable by a Democrat, but I believe it can be.
Where in Massachusetts is this?
It's on the South Shore, so it starts in Weymouth, goes to Hingham, Hull, Cohasset, Scituate, Marshfield, Duxbury, Norwell. I think I did all 8 towns. So it's all on the South Shore of Massachusetts.
And what are you hearing from people when you talk to them? Do you think that they are inclined to vote for a Democrat this year? Are they thinking about partisan politics, or are they more concerned with issues?
It's interesting the more that I do this. I mean, I would say that when I talk to people on the doors and I go to meet and greets, like everybody, regardless of party, agrees that healthcare is a mess. So that's very much a nonpartisan issue, and it's crushing to pretty much everybody. And so that's my main part of my platform, and that's the experience and skill sets that I bring in. I will say that there are a lot of doors that I hit where they're like, are you just a Democrat? Great, I'm voting D all this year, no problem. And we high five and I move on. There are a lot of interesting conversations I've had about people where they differentiate national and federal election versus state and local elections, and how it's considered in state and local elections, slightly more nonpartisan thing. Having said that to me is more local election is nonpartisan. State is kind of this weird in between. But I think that this year, and that's what I'm banking on, is that people are excited to vote. They're really excited to vote this year, especially Democrats. I think we're tired of what's going on and the horror that we see every day, and they're ready to vote. We had a huge primary turnout. 20 to 30% of people showed up to vote in a primary, which on average, 5 to 10% of people show up for primaries. So we're ready, and I think the Democrats are ready to vote.
And so we've been looking at this as we've been talking to people around the country, how differently state legislatures are set up. And of course, the one thing to note about Massachusetts is that the districts all have names.
Yes. So Norfolk and Plymouth is different than Plymouth and Norfolk, which is what I'm running in, which is super awesome.
But the other thing is that whether these are considered part-time or full-time positions, how much they pay is wildly different from state to state. So what does that look like in Massachusetts?
It's tough to get that information out. I've tried to talk to people who have this job already and get that information, and I haven't been wildly successful in getting that. But I will say for me, that's a big question that everyone asks, because I'm a pediatrician and I'm working full-time and I'm campaigning full-time. And so they wonder how I have the energy to do it, but I just do it. But when I win this, I'm going to go on a leave of absence and I'm going to stop practicing as a pediatrician. For me personally, it's because I'm an all-in person. I'm making claims. I want to fix healthcare. That's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of time to do that. So I'm going to devote myself full time to this effort because it needs it. I don't know if other people, how they necessarily treat it. Again, I haven't necessarily got that information, but that's how I'm going to treat it. It is, from what I can gather, a pretty good paying job. It's $60,000 a year. So that's pretty great for most people. But that's about all the information I've been able to glean, I guess.
You also, in addition to working full-time and campaigning full-time, you also have kids.
I do. I have 2 kids, yes. And they're pretty helpful.
So how are you balancing all of that, And I don't say that because you're a mom. We ask parents of both genders that. But, what does having kids mean for you in terms of your political outlook, and what does it mean for you in terms of campaigning?
Well, I like to joke for my political outlook is that, moms get stuff done. So we should have, and parents in general. Parents, they just make things work because they have to. Your primary focus is your kids and the well-being of your kids and raising your family and doing the best that you can for them. And you just do it. It's sometimes life isn't easy. Most of the time it isn't, I guess. And you just do what you have to do in order to make things good for your family. So I think having parent perspective on that is good in our state house. How I am doing it is my kids, I don't know if I'd be able to do it if I had toddlers, but my kids are 6 and 8 years old, and they come canvassing with me. They come on scooters, and they knock doors and ring bells, and my son is working on his handwriting and writing postcards with me and being helpful. They're also easily bribed, and there is a prize at the end of this. So, I have to watch out. If I do too many evenings away from the kids, their behavior starts to ramp up and, they miss me and they don't know how to deal with that. And I have to be really cognizant of how I'm spending time with them and making sure that it's quality time, even if it's less time than I normally do.
I know on your website you mentioned some hobbies, and I'm guessing you don't have a whole lot of time for hobbies.
Well, it's really funny. One is cake making, and I'm actually making cupcakes as we speak. I'm multitasking. We're opening up our office in Weymouth and having a big party, so I was going to bring some cupcakes.
Do you get to do things like read books and dress up in costumes anymore?
So Halloween, yes. We just ordered all our costumes. It's very exciting. We're going to be Harry Potter themed this year. I'm going to be Professor McGonagall, and then my son is going to be Harry Potter. So yes, no, I make everyone dress up in costumes, and we did that. So they're on their way, and that should be super exciting. And then cake making, yeah. I usually do it for birthdays. So my son's birthday is coming up in December, thankfully after this whole thing is over. And he'll pick out whatever cake he wants, and I'll see if I can make it. Some years I've been more successful than others, but it all tastes good in the end.
So one thing I wanted to ask about was, what are the things that you can do at the state legislative level for healthcare? So we think a lot about healthcare in terms of the national legal scene and the Affordable Care Act and things like that. But what are the things that can be done at the state level to help fix healthcare?
Well, there's a lot. I talk about wanting to move to a more universal system, and, people throw around single payer and Medicare for all, and all of those are great options, and there's slight differences in it that you don't necessarily need to go into. But the general idea is that we need to go to a more universal program, because right now this is not working. And it's not a sustainable system for families. There are ways that Massachusetts can start moving towards a universal system, and honestly, I think once states like Massachusetts and California start moving towards this, and I think if we can get a federal government that is more receptive to it, we can do a true universal across the United States program, which is ultimately what we need to do. But what we can do in Massachusetts is do something similar. Medicare is actually a very good program, you have to improve it. Anytime you expand anything, you'd have to improve it. And there are ways that you can go about legislatively to get kind of waivers out of the federal system to make something similar like that work in a state. It has less administration costs. So Medicare has about 2 to 3% administration costs versus insurance companies, which have about 20 to 30%. So there's a lot of cost savings when it comes to that. And then pharmaceutical industries, when you are a big entity, you can argue for better prices for your, medications and your medical devices. And so that's another way that you can save money. So people, always ask me, how is this going to get paid for? This is, really expensive. But right now it is hugely expensive, and there are ways that we can save money, and then actually we can make it more efficient and affordable if we can go to a broader system like this. And then what ends up happening is instead of you paying copays and deductibles and all the stuff that you pay with money taken out of your checks and stuff for it, it just comes as a one tax. Businesses get taxed, people get taxed, it all gets pooled in, and the government then doles out the money with a board. There's, the idea is that you have a 20 to 25 member board, something like that, where it has a bunch of people and they can kind of help decide how this runs, which is probably more information than you wanted, I guess. I don't know. So sorry about that.
No, I think that's great. I love knowing that candidates know more about this stuff than I do. I want to vote for people who know how to do things.
Well, yeah, I know. That seems great. That's what we need. We need more diversity in government. Unfortunately, the way that our, election system is set up is horrible, right? And that needs to be revamped, and the money needs to be gotten out of politics and all of this stuff. But we're losing. We have too many lawyers. We have too many career politicians. We need some. Don't get me wrong. That's great. But we just have too many of them, and we don't have enough teacher voices, and we don't have enough union worker voices, and we don't have enough healthcare worker voices, because all of these things matter, and scientist voices. And we need this expertise so that those people can be the leaders in this, because you can't lead on everything, right? But we need these leaders to lead on environmental issues and education issues and working family issues. We just don't have enough people to lead on it because we don't have enough diversity in our government.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk about?
I will throw out that running for office is really hard. And having never done it before, I didn't quite understand how hard it is. You need a lot of help in order to get people in, especially when they're going up against incumbents. Incumbents have an advantage. About 85% of the time they win just because they are incumbents, whether they're good or bad. So getting new people in is really tough, and the way that we can get new people in is we need people to help. And so my campaign really needs a lot of help, but just like any campaign needs a lot of help, and we strive to be as inclusive as possible. So canvassing is always great, knocking on doors, but if you can't do that, we do postcards. We're doing handwritten postcards everywhere. If you can't do that, just coming in, hanging out and being supportive, or doing stuff on social media or Facebook, or there's numerous ways. Just contact a campaign. Any campaign is going to want to have your help, and definitely ours will want to have your help. And then money, unfortunately, that's, still a big thing in it. And where does the money go? It goes to printing and mailing, which is hugely expensive. Getting mailers out, especially when people don't know your name, can cost $20,000, depending on the size of your district. So money is always appreciated and very much needed, whether you can do $5, $10, $20, something like that, it adds up. So my website's www.votemcbrine, VOTEMCBRINE.com, and all that information is on there, plus every stance, because I believe in transparency in government. So if there's anything you ever want to know about me, it's on there.
All right, and we'll put links up to your website and your social media up on our website as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Katie, thanks so much for talking to me today. Always fun to talk to a Chicagoan.
Yeah.
And have fun making those cupcakes.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for having me on. Have a good day.
You too.
Are you looking? Oh, I should need it. Are you listening? I used to be there. Are you looking? Oh, I should need it. Oh, watch your seas with the stars.
this segment, I am here with Charlotte Goddard, who is running for the Kentucky House of Representatives in District 2. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you.
So I'm going to start with what is usually our first question, which is, can you tell me about your background, what you've done up until now, and what made you decide to